I'm fascinated really by the idea that so many of the modern diseases we have now are about choices that we all make, lifestyle choices. And if we're going to make any inroad into all these modern diseases, we need to perhaps show an interest in behaviour change. And really, if you're going to do that, you need to find an expert in behaviour change, and they are called psychologists. So I've been lucky enough to be married to a psychologist, and she's been teaching me the importance of motivation. Because core to behaviour change is motivation. And we've been working on a simple model for all of us to try and use in clinical practice. And I'm hoping to illustrate this with a patient who's consented to appear with us today, Andrew, who will be coming on with me next. But we've also done a much longer interview with my wife for any of you that are interested, and there'll be a link to that interview alongside this. So let's just begin with the bones of what we've been using. Always a good idea to begin with what the patients are hoping for. We've discovered that the clearer a patient is about what they're hoping for, the more likely they are to achieve that goal. So an inquiry about their hopes is time very well spent. And this is done in two parts. It's great to find out if things work out really well for you, what's life going to be like? So we call that the miracle question. So you have whatever problems you've got, there's been some kind of a miracle. If this works out really well, how will you be in a year's time? What will life look like? And then you'll learn a lot about your patients in a cheerful way. And then the next question is, well, if that is your goal, to breathe perfectly, run a marathon or whatever, what would be a small step towards that goal? And again, get detail. Find out, not vaguely, but exactly what that patient might want to do before they come and see you next time. So these are small, realistic steps towards the goal. Talking about goals, you'll find, is so much more cheerful than talking about problems. Talking about problems is miserable and carries you, how long have I been depressed? I'm so depressed. When was I last depressed? This kind of thing. Or shall we talk about what would life be like without depression? What would I hope to do? And you can see immediately, it's more cheerful. Let's talk about life without depression. So these are the hopes and the small steps. Then the next part of this is reflecting with patients, reflecting on the results. So when you review them, it's so useful to ask them what changes they've noticed. And that's cheerful for you because you're getting them to say, oh, I can do this, I can do that. But it's great for the patients because they get in the habit of telling you good stuff that they've done. We've taught patients really to tell us what's bad in their lives, but it's very refreshing to talk about what they've done that's worked and how that feels. And that actually encourages them to go further. The final aspect of this approach is giving feedback. So that I'm very interested in the different ways that we give feedback to patients. We're complimentary to them. Those compliments should be specific about what they have done that is good. So we don't just say they're good. We say they are determined or they are resilient, these kind of things. Make your compliments sincere and specific where possible. That's feedback. But there are other more interesting ways of giving feedback. I love giving graphs. So nearly all of our clinical systems now can generate graphs of progress. And I print off hundreds of graphs to do with weight, waist, hemoglobin A1C, triglyceride levels. And patients really like that as feedback. And of course, those pieces of feedback go into the wider world because they take them back to their families. So I'm always on the lookout for the opportunities of giving sincere compliments, but also feedback in whatever form. And I think that encourages patients then to do more of what works. So I hope you can see that's just a flavour of that. It is a cheerful way to deal with clinical practice. And I hope you'll watch the next little clip with Andrew where I'm trying to demonstrate that. So, you were about here. So, I just think this is so amazing. That is where, in January, and we're only in August now, I think that is fantastic. And I mean, how do you feel when you look at that? That's where you were.
Happy and sad that I let myself get into that state.
Yeah.
But there's mainly shame, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, you just, it's amazing what you've achieved. It's amazing what you've achieved. And I suppose that brings us naturally on. If this process carries on brilliantly, what would be the absolutely best result for you? What do you want?
Gain stamina.
Yeah.
Maybe even do a 5k or something like that.
Yeah.
Just, it's cloud cuckoo land at the minute, but
no,
I want to aim.
I'm wanting you to think
further.
big.
Yeah.
What would you really love to be doing in a year's time?
Running regularly.
Yeah.
And without pain and without blue inhaler.
Yeah, without blue inhalers. And what else? In a year's time, if this process goes really well, tell me what else we'd like to see happening.
I'd like to try and encourage kids to do the same.
Tell me a bit about that.
I'm a gymnastics coach, although I wouldn't have thought so, but I see quite a few bigger kids coming in.
Yeah.
And I would like to try and say, well, I did it, and let's see what we can do with you guys. Try and improve their fitness as well, because 1 hour a week doesn't replace the rest of the week of damage that's possibly being done.
So if that's your goal, what would be some small steps towards that? What are you going to do to nudge you along that process?
Well, I certainly want to concentrate in the gym and improve my muscular side and not be Mr. Big or anything like that. I just want to be in proportion, but look like an advocate for fitness.
Yeah. So that
as opposed to a victim of fat.
So that would be some of the steps towards that. You mean working more in the gym?
Probably working more in the gym, not necessarily making it the main priority, but general fitness. Yeah. Maybe ironclad meat diet a bit better.
Okay. So when we meet again in a month, what you're hoping for you'll have achieved by that time?
Gone lighter than 15.5.
Yeah, so you'd like the weight loss to continue?
Yeah, I'd like the weight loss to continue, get rid of the wobbly bits.
Yeah.
And then start looking at increasing probably my weight in a way with muscle instead, perhaps, or basically my body composition in one way or another.
I think it's so useful to have your distant goal and be as clear as possible about what that goal is. I love the idea of a 5k. I'd do one with you.
Yeah.
We could do the park run. That's a 5k. That's be perfect. So I love that distant goal.
Yeah.
And then I think the idea that you've got some small steps on the way that are doable.
Yeah.
And then the more realistic you make those small steps, the more likely you are to do it.
Yeah. I like looking at the figures. I mean, especially the figures on the tape. But I mean, seeing improvement on a graph or regression, whichever.
You need feedback, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I always give you the graphs, because that's evidence for you. Wow. Like your weight graph is so dramatic. Your waist graph is dramatic. And I think if we can add, with more feedback, things like your peak flow, which would give you an idea of how your breathing is, that would build confidence.
Yeah.
And would give you an idea, well, that's what I'm aiming for. So another idea of mine is let's get a basic spirometry test for you.
Yeah.
More feedback.
Be interesting to see where it is now, because it was some time ago since I've had one, but I didn't like the news I was getting. Just from basics, really, it was just a nightmare.
Yeah. But now you're getting good feedback.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
So just to reflect for a moment, how is your asthma better now than it was 6 months ago?
I haven't got my blue inhaler with me.
That's amazing.
As much as you want to slap me on the hand,
No.
but used to be always there in my pocket, ready to go. I was going through, on a bad week, best part of an inhaler a week, and just the blue inhaler.
Wow, because that's 200 puffs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are you doing now with inhalers? The blue inhaler?
Last time I had my blue inhaler was probably about 2.5 weeks ago.
Now? That's like a miracle to me.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited by that. So you've just seen me there with Andrew. I hope you were able to see that I was using some of those techniques where I was asking him to talk to me about his goals, some small practical steps towards those goals, and then we were talking about feedback. You saw me doing that in measuring his waist and reflecting on how big his waist had been previously. In addition, I know that Andrew does value the graphs that we produce, and he does take them home and he's very proud of them. So that's the use of feedback. Perhaps you could also see what a cheerful relationship I have with Andrew, and it's part of that he's agreed to do this video with us, so that the practice is essentially cheerful, reflective and positive.